like when you're thinking about your product, it's not about why are we better or how do we sell this? It's how do our consumers research this, right? So it might be inspiration. It might be DIY, training videos, use cases. Wow, have you ever thought to use it here? Or here's interesting applications that our clients or our customers have figured out. So that's a really great point because they might not be ready to buy from you now, but eventually, if they've been following you for a while, you're the one to go to. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Marketing Blender Show. Now, you know that recently I've had the pure delight of introducing you to some of my most favorite people. And Samaria Boyd is a social media extraordinaire, guru, expert. And guys, I'm doing this a little bit because I know she hates this part. But she is amazing at business-to-business social media. And so she's agreed to come on and share best practices. How in the heck does social media even work for the B2B world? And just have a lot of fun with us. So Samaria, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am super excited to be here too, because I find that in the B2B world, there's some people that love it, some people that kind of go, I don't get it. Why are we bothering? What's the whole point? And it's different than business to consumer. I mean, there's different budgets, different types of content. And so I feel like it's a different monster. Is it really that different from consumer?
It's different in the way that there's a little bit more of a professional communication. For consumer, you can be a little bit more laid back. So like you think of like the Duolingos, the Hootsuites, things like that, the people who just kind of are like reaching out to, I guess, just people on a more, I don't want to say on a base level because it's not like their audience aren't not complicated.
Right.
But like on a base level, whereas like we're reaching out to people who are buying the product and also are leaders in their field and just kind of like changing that up a little bit or changing the way that you communicate that up a little bit because it has to be like, it has to make sense for them specifically. So
I think that's such a great point that you bring up. And really, I think that's a perfect place to start too, because this is content for busy executives frequently. So not always, right? Sometimes it might be the doer or the person in the middle or a manager, but very, very frequently in almost all of our feeds, there's at least one buyer persona that is VP, director, or C-suite. And so really, truly at the top, and they use social media very differently.
They honestly, you find them on more of the LinkedIns and maybe Instagrams, just depending on the client and where they are or just the industry. But LinkedIn is like super important for B2B in general because that's where you find the people who are going to be looking for your product specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you think, is LinkedIn the main platform or is it the only place to do B2B social media? I mean, like kind of what's your sweet spot and how do you recommend which platform to use for B2B?
So for me, I don't think LinkedIn's the only place. I think all of the buyer, obviously your buyer personas are in different areas depending on what they're looking for. But like, I think the best thing to do is just kind of go back to that base where you find kind of where your audience is. So like if your audience is on Instagram and you have a B2B business, then that's where you should be. If they're mostly on LinkedIn, that's where you should be. It just depends on where your people are. So that's kind of how I gauge it, for lack of better words.
Well, I mean, I think that's perfect. I mean, Daisy and I are always talking about go where your buyers go. And you guys, Samaria brings up a really important part. It's not about the platform. It's about the people that you are trying to communicate with and who you are trying to bring value. So if your folks are not on LinkedIn, guess what? Then that's not the appropriate platform for your B2B social media. However, occasionally, not all the time, but there are some B2B buyer personas that are younger. So maybe looking at a TikTok, maybe looking at something, some other up and coming platform is the right play, but really, really always humans first, buyer personas first, and that's decision-making criteria. So what are some of the other platforms that people might be surprised that you've used for some of our clients?
I think the most surprising one would probably be Instagram. Everybody is on Facebook because once, like everybody realized there was kind of a need for social media marketing, Facebook was the first place they went because there are groups. It can be kind of segmented into like more I guess I don't want to say important, but like it can be segmented into like the specifics basically. So everybody has Facebook, but not everybody has Instagram.
Yeah.
I think Instagram would be more surprising just because for B2B, people think that it's more boring. Because I often hear people say, oh, B2B, what do you actually do on Instagram? And it's just like, they still have a brand that they're showcasing. They still have people they're trying to reach out to for hiring. They still have people that they're trying to reach out to, to connect with and I guess essentially buy their product. So Instagram, I think, is the most interesting because not everybody believes they should be over there. So
I think so too. Because I think people would be surprised that there's a B2B play.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if they're interested in it, especially if it's a business owner, as an example, I'm on Instagram all the time because it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not surprising when a B2B brand or somebody that I would engage with at work shows up. Guess what? I'm still the same human being. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
I've been thinking about that. Or I was going to check out that software. Or, I was thinking about signing up for this training for my team. And frequently I find stuff on Instagram, and that's a B2B play. So I know you've also been using Pinterest, not for every client, but you've had some really good success with Pinterest. Now, what kind of B2B brands, why would that make sense for a business-to-business brand?
I think if you have a product to show and kind of a audience of people who are really going to be able to utilize that product and kind of showcase how they're using the product. So like, for example, Bison, they're over on Pinterest and they have a really good following. And that's mostly because a lot of people who are looking for their product or like looking to find something like their product are looking for those DIY, I don't know, what do you call them? The pins and like the different articles that'll teach you how to do those things or like YouTube videos. And that's all in one like area on Pinterest. So,
well, and I think you bring up such a great point. Like when you're thinking about your product, it's not about why are we better or how do we sell this? It's how do our consumers research this, right? So it might be inspiration. It might be DIY, training videos, use cases. Wow, have you ever thought to use it here? Or here's interesting applications that our clients or our customers have figured out. So that's a really great point because they might not be ready to buy from you now, but eventually, if they've been following you for a while, you're the one to go to.
Yep, that's very true.
Now, a moment ago, you brought up a different topic where you said maybe their employees or their prospective employees are on there. So talk to me a little bit about why, like, what would social media have to do with hiring or with your employees?
It has everything to do with hiring, especially with the younger generation of the workforce that's coming in. Because a lot of the times, I know I did it. When you're looking for a job, you're looking to find any information you can about the place that you're applying to, right? Because you want it to align with your values. You want to make sure that you're not going somewhere that's like, I don't want to say scary, but like somewhere you can have fun and you kind of want to get to know the people before you get there so that when you go to the interview, you're a little bit less nervous.
Yes.
So for that specifically, social media is important just because you can showcase, your people. You can showcase pretty much anything internal that people on the outside looking in wouldn't get. So yeah, that's, I guess for that specific use, social media is super important, and that's what people should be focusing on when they're using their social media rather than just like product.
Do you know, I love that because, well, social media is social. Like, hello, Captain Obvious. But I think we see so many B2B brands really play it safe and so safe that they strip out what's awesome about them. And yeah, if you're thinking about going where you want to work, you want to like these people. You want to believe in what they do. And I would actually argue that customers want to like you and believe in you too.
Yeah, that's
so,
very
I
true.
actually think there's like a win-win. Like, wow, I can see their people. I can see their approach. I can see their personality. I get it. Like, I really like these folks. So that's huge.
Also, the other thing is like internally, your employees and the people who work with you want to make sure and feel appreciated.
Yeah.
And I know it's like really simple and people are thinking like, most times they're like, well, just because I post them on my social, that doesn't necessarily give that message. But like, people like to see themselves shouted out. People love to see themselves in the photography. They love to see themselves like in general, just like doing their thing and being appreciated for it. One of the best examples that I have that is probably Ameritex.
Yes.
Their employees are all over Facebook. And so when they see themselves in the pictures, they'll either comment or like they'll tag the person who's in the picture and they'll, have like little banter in the comments. And it's really nice to see because like, again, you're showing the people that they're appreciated and you're showcasing who they are and their talent. So
I mean, we really do see that that company honors their work. And so it's not just the leadership team. You almost never see the leadership team in their social media. I mean, it is the people that are the heartbeat, and they really take backstage and let their folks be on the front. By this point, you guys have figured out that both Daisy and I are chief marketing officers. But what you might not realize is there's a whole team of us at the Marketing Blender, and we also have outsourced marketing teams. So if you're curious about how we break revenue plateaus, how we untangle sticky messaging, and how we make sure to drive exciting return on investment and profitable growth, check us out at themarketingblender.com. But it's not just for mid-market companies. We've also figured out how to scale it down for small businesses too.
The Marketing Blender Lab is our program just for small businesses looking to hit their first $1 million in revenue. You still get to work with a real chief marketing officer, and we use the same structures and systems that work to grow big businesses to help you meet and exceed your goals.
So again, if you're interested, check out themarketingblender.com. See you there.
It's incredible to see. I think it also just boosts morale because one of my favorite things is seeing the comments that are like, go Team Ameritex, or like just in general, this is a great company to work for. Like just those little things like that. It's just kind of like, for me, it's exciting because now I know that, I know this is kind of maybe a tangent, but like, I know that they are seeing it and they're being represented well. So that makes me feel good. And then it also makes me feel good that, the leadership can see and kind of better or get a better view of like what their employees are thinking about.
Yeah. Well, and I and it takes a lot, right? I mean, we worked closely with them to get photography. You meet frequently with their HR team, not just the product people, not just the social, the subject matter experts. And so there's a lot of us behind the scenes really making sure that social media is a accurate reflection of the whole company, not just here's what we sell.
Yes. It's super important too, just because like I said, when people are looking from the outside in, they don't always get the best picture of what your company's doing. So like for the companies that are more community oriented, it's super important. For the companies that are super, I guess, like employee centric, it's important because again, the people who are looking to work for you are going to be looking at your social media to kind of gauge. So
yeah, exactly. So Ameritex is an amazing example, but we've been working with them for a long time. You've really been elevating them, and I could really go down a rabbit hole, but I'm going to roll it back for just a second.
Okay.
Because we get a lot of clients that get very overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And you have literally even done trainings for our clients, for their team, for some leaders on being a social CEO. We've done a lot of hands-on in addition to the management that you do for them. So where do people start? Like what do you have to make sure is correct and accurate in the beginning? Kind of what's the basic posting frequency? And let's just start talking about a few of those blocking and tackling basics.
Okay. I think the most important thing to start with is to make sure that you are willing to create content that adds value to the space you're in. A lot of the times, and I know anybody who works in social is going to agree, but a lot of the times we get like CEOs or higher ups who are just saying like, okay, let's post this. And there's like no strategy behind it. There's no thought behind it. And it's just like, we have to start. And I guess from a basic level too, just like looking at the content and making sure that you're actually going to be providing substance, because if you're not providing anything that's like helpful, people aren't going to want to follow you. They're not going to want to interact with your content. I mean, they may interact with your content. It might not be what you wanted, but
Exactly.
but you know, it's going to be something, it is something that like is just super important off rip. And I know most people would probably think that the most important thing is setting up those social accounts, but that's really not the first part, because you can set up as many social accounts as you want to. But if your audience is not there and the things you're thinking about creating aren't going to be providing any substance to that audience that's listening to you, there's no point in doing any of that.
Yeah, it's a complete waste of time, of opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
and you can hurt your brand reputation if people feel sold to or manipulated, or if it's just worthless. The algorithms will push your
Yeah.
content back down.
And it's also just kind of like being super salesy on social media just isn't cutting it.
No.
And it hasn't for a long time. I know that we're moving into more of an era of like community-based social, which is also up for discussion because I've seen a lot of discussion about it on LinkedIn. But just kind of building different, like kind of not honing in, but like building those relationships that you have with the people who are around you, and kind of, again, showcasing yourself and making sure you're providing substance to the people who are watching you.
Yeah.
Because I mean, a lot of the communities, especially, and I guess I keep going back to LinkedIn because LinkedIn is like what I typically do, or it's like the most important platform for most of our clients. But like on LinkedIn specifically, it's just like a community of like people who know a lot about the different things, like the different people they follow, they know a lot about that industry. And so just kind of working in different industries, the thing that I've seen a lot is like they all know, even if they're competitors, they'll interact with each other's content.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
because it's buoying the industry.
yeah. And I think that's really, honestly, I think that's the best part about LinkedIn, because it's a lot different than the other platforms in the way that you have a lot of subject matter experts, and you have a lot of people who honestly, and some of these people may not necessarily be subject matter experts, they may just have an opinion, but the thing is that their opinion is usually insightful and actually adds to the conversation.
Yeah.
And so in the comment section, you'll see you may see disagreement. It's not like anything you would see on like TikTok or Instagram
not
or,
rude,
or
right.
Facebook. Yeah. But like, it is just like, it's conversations that help build people and help kind of create, I don't know, like a better conversation about different topics.
Yeah, well, it gives you a wider range of points of view.
Mm-hmm.
So Samaria is bringing up two really important aspects that I want to point out to you guys right now. So first things first, that strategy component, for all of our clients, we build a brand message playbook, and this will document the buyer personas, who they are, what they care about beyond your product, because they're thinking about their pains, their frustrations, and their goals, not your product. So really understanding the narrative and the full ecosystem around that content. It's documented so then it can be shared with your social media expert, with your sales team, with your entire team, no matter what aspect of the business they're in. So really, you start ahead of the game and you create decision-making criteria around what kind of content do we do and what does value actually mean to these buyers or to these talent personas. Mm-hmm. But then the other thing that she's talking about is the real purpose of social media. Now, I hear a ton of times from CEOs or executives who are too busy to be on social media. I don't think anybody's on there except recruiters and salespeople. That is not true, because one important thing about business to business social media is that you might not see as high of engagement or as many likes and shares as you would see with business to consumer content, but it doesn't mean that people are not there and not paying attention and not reading your content. So you've really got to be thoughtful about why are we doing this and put yourself out there. So I just had to unpack that because you have so much, there's just so much depth to that. And we just hear a lot of skepticism, but there is the right way to start. So once they have that messaging and once they know what value actually means in the land of social media, then what are some of the basics? How frequently do they post, or what kind of content works the best? Or, as a social media expert, how do you know what to do?
So number one, if you have somebody who's doing social media, make sure they're watching the analytics. That is very important. And just kind of going back to that, like, depending on if you use a scheduler, if you don't, most of them track your analytics, and you can see which content performs the best. But I think the content, in my opinion, that performs the best is people. People love seeing people. Like, it's actually kind of hilarious how you'll have like a really like a post that you think is super insightful, and it'll get like maybe 15 likes because, I mean, smaller brands, smaller audiences sometimes, but like maybe 15 likes, and then you post a picture of like the team out doing something and there's like 120 likes, and it's just like, okay, but when I posted this over here, I thought it was groundbreaking. But
totally.
Yeah, so people perform the best, and that's going to be in video, photo, mostly video for sure. Especially now, a lot of the platforms are prioritizing video content before photo content and just regular text posts.
So it sounds like it's not about, it's always video or it's always this, except for people. We have never not seen that be true.
Yeah.
But how frequently do the platforms change? Like, what do you have to be watching in order to make sure that you're paying attention to trends? Because you mentioned analytics.
The platforms change. I don't want to say often because like my often is not necessarily the same as somebody else's often. But typically, like at the start of like, I don't know how to make this make sense because in social media brain, it's like every month there's a new change.
Right.
That is kind of how it is because they are working on the platforms all the time and testing beta features. But so for me, what I like to watch is, like you said, the analytics, and it'll kind of tell you where the platform's going with certain things after the month is over. Because LinkedIn just recently has said that they're going to start prioritizing video content, whereas at first, before they took it away, LinkedIn, the carousels is what they took away, and now it's the PDFs. But like originally, they were prioritizing those kind of contents, and it was interesting to see the report that Metrical did, which is the scheduler we use, on LinkedIn.
Yeah, shout out. We love them.
Yeah, I know. It's awesome. Actually, I won't go on that tangent. I was gonna just basically a whole ad of just Metrical. So sorry, but
not sponsored by, but we do
I was
love
gonna say
them.
not sponsored. But they were talking about the different type of content that is, I guess, like best performing on LinkedIn, and carousels is number one. And I love the carousels. But I think as long as you're posting at least twice a week, you should be fine. And I think the better idea for that posting twice a week is posting once in the morning and then posting once in the afternoon. Because again, that helps with engagement. And it also just kind of gives you the ability to like mix up the content a little better too.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I've learned like throughout this entire my career, my journey, is just like you don't have to only post once a day, but you also don't post 30,000 times a day because that gets overwhelming and annoying sometimes for the consumer. So that's, I guess, like as far as frequency goes, again, it also has to do with the value that you're bringing. And if you're not bringing value, then your posting frequency, it doesn't matter if you post 5 times a day. It doesn't matter if you post once a day for 7 days a week, once a month. If you're not bringing anything like of value, it's not going to drive any engagement.
Yeah.
Like
you have to
all,
be
so.
follow worthy.
Yeah.
Like people have to want to follow you, want to pay attention.
Yep.
So what you mentioned analytics a moment ago, what are the things that you track and what are you paying attention to? What are you looking for and how do you know it's working?
So for me, I've kind of moved away from what they would call like glamour analytics or like the glamour measurements, which are like likes, comments, those things, which I do really like to see those. That's incredible. However, I don't know if Daisy saw this last week, but if she's watching this, thank you for this. But people are now using AI bots for comments. So it's kind of almost pointless to watch that now.
Yeah.
Because it's not really they're not really adding anything to the conversation. They're not really doing anything. So what I like to watch is impressions, how many people have like clicked through to whatever link it is that we've posted with the post. How many people have followed us from certain posts. Sometimes on different platforms, it'll tell you like, okay, this person followed you from your reel, or like this person followed you from your post. Or I wish a lot more of the platforms would do that. It would make it so much easier. But for the ones that do, I appreciate it, because it helps me kind of understand which content is going to perform better and why people are following us.
Yes.
So
I love that. And then I do know you do follow competitors too, which is pretty fun.
Oh yeah, it is fun. I typically follow competitors mostly because it's interesting to kind of watch and see what they're posting as well. But it also helps build a community because, again, like some of the, like specifically for Ameritex, I guess it's because I also met them in person at a TCPA event. The social media managers for different competitors I've talked to from time to time just to kind of get a better understanding, because they are actually engineers.
Yeah.
So they understand some of this stuff a little bit better, but like also just keeping that community open, because while we're competitors, like we're also trying to progress the same industry.
Yeah.
So it's still, I still want to be the best. However, I know that there's somebody who probably has a little bit more knowledge than I do. And so just kind of watching the trends with them. Also just, like I said, I guess repeating myself, building community on social media is just really important in general, whether you are the social media manager or just like the company that's posting. So yeah,
absolutely. And it's interesting because over the past 10 years, we've seen social media change so much. Like you've even hinted at how frequently it changes now. But, I remember in the very early days of getting clients on to B2B social media that we would talk about, hey, people can find you on social media. That is not really the case unless you're doing paid advertising, at least not in B2B. So, but now we see talent and hiring, we see culture, we see employee engagement, we see proof and trust, we see sales enablement. We haven't even talked about social selling, but that's okay because we're doing a whole nother episode on that. So you don't have to go into any of that today.
Okay.
But there's a wide range of the role that social media plays. So are there certain ones that you think are more important, or what are the changes that you've seen where social media used to be this, but now it's different?
That's a really good question. The only reason this is like an interesting question is because of the other forms of social media that there are for like that are more important for B2B. So like Google My Business, like those Yelps. I wouldn't say, Glassdoor is like a hiring platform, but like
however,
just those like platforms that like go a little bit more in depth into your business. As those have developed, we've seen that like when, like how you said, like, oh, well, people are looking for you on social media, but it's a little bit different for B2B because, it's just like, it's almost, how do I say it? Like, it's almost like how SEO plays into the whole search thing.
Yes.
Like what comes up for you when people are looking for you. So like, if they're looking for a company and Instagram pops up first, that's going to be what they use to learn about you. Or if it's just Google My Business, like they're going to be going through those Q&As to kind of figure out like who you are and what you stand for. And
right.
like, just those little reviews are super important too there. Like, so it's just, I guess the way that I've seen it change is like more people are actively using social media for their businesses, which makes a lot of sense because that's where a lot of people are going first. And I mean, from the start of like social media, like MySpace, Facebook to now, things are so much different because there's so many different aspects of like building your brand on social media. The companies have like started kind of giving incentives to businesses for using their platform. If they're using all of the features, their content is more prioritized, or like, like with the ads and stuff like that, they'll give you like the little, oh, here's your $5 for the month, like kind of thing or whatever. But
right.
It's just, I guess the way that it's really changed is just like social media, especially like I said earlier too, with the younger workforce and with just like, as we get more into the digital age, like deeper into the digital age, I guess, it's just going to be super important for, I guess, every aspect of like information.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. But you do have to be interesting.
yes, you do have to be interesting. That is definitely true.
So 2 final questions for you. If in B2B, if people need to drive value and they, and we've already kind of hinted, it's not just about selling your product. What are some tips or prompts you can give to people think about this type of content? Like, what are some of the more fun ways that you could stay engaging and really make people drawn to you?
Honestly, I think video is going to be the most important aspect of that, and just kind of helping people get digestible bits of information.
Yeah.
Because I know for me specifically, and I know for a lot of my friends too, like when we're looking for something, whether it be, a B2B company, B2C company, we want to know something quickly.
Yes.
Especially if it's something like we don't have to if we shouldn't have to hunt for it, it should be right there. So I would say just like the videos, digestible content, short content, if it's, written content, make it pretty, graphics. And it doesn't have to be like super like crazy and like flamboyant. It can be simple, but like it just needs to be digestible.
Yes.
And also needs to give like a 360 view of kind of who you are, if that makes sense. Hopefully.
Yeah. No, it definitely does, because people can talk about their passion. They can talk about their philosophy on the industry or their approach or their culture. They could talk about their people, which you already mentioned. And I think one of the other things that comes up to mind when I was listening to you talk is remembering, what are the questions that your customers ask you the first time? What are those comments? Put that out there. Live people are asking your salespeople about these things. Well, then that's really great social media content in tiny digestible pieces where they are starting to collect the information they need to come closer to you and closer to a sale.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it's just like, it just makes everything easier on the consumer and on whoever, I guess, just whoever's looking in.
Yeah.
At your company, just because like when you don't have a social presence, and I know that a lot of people are like, well, we don't have social media and our sales are fine. But like, I promise you, if you build a social presence, it'll probably be better.
Agreed. People are so surprised the impact it has.
But yeah, so it's just important. And I guess I'll keep beating this horse. It's still alive. It's not dead. But just to show people like who you are, like it's gonna save you a world of, I guess, emails and things like that and calls of people trying to like stay on for 30 minutes talking about who you are and what you know. If you have it show like visually, if you have it, somebody's talking, if you combine your people, your product, your passions, and your just like overall philosophy in one little digestible bit, which it's not going to be one, but like I'm just saying, like if it all comes down, like if you combine all those things, it just makes it easier for people to kind of get a view of who you are. So
yeah. Absolutely. I love it. Like an ecosystem
Yes.
where every time they come across you, they're learning something, again, digestible, but valuable, where they're just you're staying top of mind. And we have seen it shorten sales cycles and speed things up because of that great information transfer.
Yes.
Okay. So last question, and my favorite.
Uh-oh. I'm kidding.
Okay. So why do you know so much? Like tell everybody, what is your career? How'd you get into social media? And really, how did you learn what you know?
So I learned a lot of what I know from trial and error. First and foremost, that's very true. Social media is all about experimenting and testing. I mean, marketing is essentially too, but, so I started out as a radio TV major in college, and, one of my friends actually wanted to do this thing called Her Campus. And at first I was just like, nah, that's not for me. I don't want to go into like not really a niche market, but like just my brain was just like, I don't want to do that. I want to be on, something different. And the president at the time had actually sat me down and was like, hey, like this is how I got my internship. And I was like, okay, well, I'll give social media a try. And so from there, I started doing social, and I literally fell in love with it because like there was, I mean, not like we had like a big page. We were just the Her Campus for our school. But it was just nice to see like community, and it was nice to see people interacting kindly with each other online. And being behind that was even better, because like you just see people, like when you work with people to do certain things on social, you see them like kind of glow when they start talking about the things they love. Even when there are people coming, from the outside to comment, they're talking about the things they love. Those people are commenting and talking about the things they love.
Yes.
So like it just kind of, it's almost like a snowball effect of positivity.
Yes.
But it's just so much fun. Like there's so much to do on social again. And I guess this is one thing that I didn't say was like, when you're doing social media, one of the most important things is having fun. Because a lot of people get a little bit too serious. And when you get too serious, it starts to lose its like kind of little bit of I don't know what you want to call it, like a little bit of happiness.
Yeah, and just the human connection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, the human connection aspect of marketing. Because like, I mean, obviously we're not salespeople, but we're also still selling something. So like that definitely is something that like is super important, just to have fun so that you can continue to have that connection with your consumers. But back to Her Campus and going into radio and stuff like that. I did radio for a little bit, even though I know I probably look super uncomfortable on this camera in front of this microphone.
You're great.
So I did that. And Her Campus really sold me on the social media though. Like there were so many different things that we were doing. We had Spotify going, and I had a partner in crime on this one too. So like, shout out to Vanessa. I don't know if she's going to watch this, but hey girl. Anyways, I'm sorry.
I love it.
But so just being on social media as a user first, and then moving into kind of like directing and actually building social calendars. It's just fun to be creative and like watch and see what all you can do on social media and what all can have an impact. And also just watching the developments on social media is just so interesting. If I wasn't doing social media, I would probably still be doing social media some way, because just watching like things like Vine, TikTok, Instagram being built, and like even I wasn't there for the beginning of Facebook, but like I was there before it got the like button.
It was weird.
Maybe after the like button.
You could poke people.
Yeah,
that would
had
probably
the poke
be
feature.
terribly on PC today.
We have, so actually the funny thing about the poking is like I remember we used to hate it so much, and like we would poke each other to be kind of like, you made me mad at school today. Yeah, and we weren't supposed to be on social media, so we were not old enough, but we were still on it. But anyways, just watching that like kind of progression from like text post to watching videos online, and just kind of like seeing how short form video has progressed in this day, long form video, things like that. It's just always been so interesting to me. So like, like I said, if I wasn't doing social media like professionally, I would definitely still be doing social media some way, somehow, because that initial interaction that I had with social media and being able to kind of like build a community of people who have, I guess, like minds, and then like also just like kind of reaching people and touching their hearts for things that they care about. Like that's definitely what drove me.
I love it.
And that's how I learned what I learned, because I just posted stuff.
I love it. And then from there on, you did multiple cause marketing campaigns, worked for a number of organizations. And so ironically, you've been doing this professionally for years.
Yeah, for a long time. Honestly, and it's actually really surprising to me even when I go on interviews and I'm talking about my experience. I hate talking about myself, but like just in general, just talking about the experiences that I've had and the places I've worked and the things that I've, I guess, like worked on, campaigns and things like that. Like, it's just always been, it's always such a like, oh, I have done that. Like, wow, I am kind of cool.
You are definitely cool and definitely heart forward, community forward. So I love it. And that's why it matters. So you guys, we hope we gave you some good tidbits. We are going to be launching lives. You probably or maybe have already seen one of them. And so if you have specific questions, Samaria does the lives with us. So shoot us your best B2B social media questions or any questions. And as always, onward and upward, have a voice out there. Use social media. Use all of your marketing to be able to actually make an impact like Samaria is suggesting, because it does work, and being good is good for business. We'll see you next time. Hit that subscribe button. Onward and upward.